Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo, here with my co-host, Jeff Walston. How's it going, my friend?
It's going wonderful. Very, very optimistic, and I hope everyone's doing well out there. It's going fine, especially in business and your personal life. I'm very optimistic, especially for the latter part of the year. Although these gas prices have been a little tough out there, so I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to fluctuate pricing and inflation and all that good stuff. But other than that, everything's going well. What about you, Raphael? How's it going?
It's going great. Yeah. And we just recently had this conversation actually this morning about gas price. I was at the pump yesterday and I was like, ooh, this is unfortunate, but hopefully, like you said, it normalizes at some point here in the near future, and definitely interested to see how it all plays out. But similar to you, 2022 is still looking like a very positive year. And obviously I'm very blessed, and you are as well. You've always mentioned that we get the opportunity to interview people from all across the country doing just awesome stuff. And this has been a great opportunity for us just to meet and gain insights from these professionals that have been operating in the business for many, many years. And luckily today we had another unique opportunity to interview someone who is just a phenomenal individual, very insightful. His name's Justin Cazana. He's the principal at Avison Young, is also a broker, but located in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so we had a very interesting discussion with him pertaining to a variety of different subjects. First off, we kind of touched on why he got into the business in the first place. He's a Knoxville native, went to the University of Auburn, studied journalism, and then got into the broadcasting side as a play-by-play analyst, and operated in a variety of different capacities on radio and a variety of different mediums within the sports industry, and then ultimately came back to Knoxville to get into the commercial real estate brokerage space. And so we talked a little bit about what was the impetus for that, some of the struggles and things that how he was able to operate within the business over the course of his career, some of the skills and lessons that he learned from his broadcasting days that he then applied to his brokerage business, and then kind of touched on also the things that we've talked about in previous episodes related to property management and why he decided to get into property management and some of the benefits associated with actually having that as an arm of your business. And then finally, we touched on just a variety of different topics, one being the economic dynamics within Knoxville and the future that he sees within that market, and also what he sees as the future of his organization. He's been in the business for several decades now, and he's continued to grow his brokerage and a variety of different arms within his business. I think currently they have about 25 employees, and they're optimistic about being able to grow in a variety of different ways. And so he kind of touched on the future of the organization and how they were able to align that vision with where they ultimately wanted to go. So, it was a great conversation. Justin was a great person to talk to. We had a lot of laughs, and it was a good time. And, I think you guys are going to gain a lot of value from this episode. Jeff, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think you nailed it on the head there. Justin seems like a great all around guy. I like the part that where he actually explains about being in the family business, because I know a lot of commercial real estate realtors are in that, and that just kind of what you can feel and like living under a shadow and all this stuff, and you have to prove yourself, like you're not just living to your family's name. It's more than that, and you have to work harder. So I really like that part where he kind of dives into that a little more, and just how he talks about Knoxville. It is a great city. I love going there. And I can't wait for you guys just to hear his take on the market that's Knoxville. So
yeah, no, for sure. And it's so close to us too. I mean, we're located in Louisville. It's about a 4-hour drive away. So, I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that I've heard a lot of great things about Knoxville, and I'm very encouraged to be able to go there one day just to visit. So, I like I said, we had a great conversation with Justin about a variety of different subjects. So I think you guys are really going to gain some value from this video. Before diving into the episode, I would greatly First off, want to thank you all for tuning in on a weekly basis and being able to contribute to the podcast. It really means the world to us. And, the fact that you guys have been leaving 5-star reviews in particular has helped us significantly increase our reach. So if you guys don't mind taking a second, going to Apple Podcasts and leaving us a 5-star review, it makes the world of difference to us and it makes a huge impact. Along with that, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Again, it helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message. So if you guys don't mind taking a second to do that, that'd be awesome. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this episode. Well, hey, Justin, great to see you this fine afternoon.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. Can't wait for this episode. Dive into Justin, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And Justin's tuning in pretty close to us, actually, from Knoxville, Tennessee. It's a place that I've wanted to go to for quite some time. I've been in the Louisville area for about 4.5 years, and I've been trying to hit a lot of the neighboring cities. So I've been, to Cincinnati, been to Nashville several times, and St. Louis, et cetera. And Knoxville is one of those places that people continue to tell me I need to go check out. So I'm hopeful to get out there soon.
Yeah, it's just about 4 hours down the road, a pretty easy trip if you can get over Jellicoe Mountain. So it's a great place to be. I know Knoxville and Louisville usually compete for the title of most allergy-filled area in the country. So it's just as bad up there as it is down here. So thankfully we're past that part of the year and can live in a normal world for a little bit.
Absolutely. I didn't have allergies at all until I moved here to Louisville. So, I mean, it's just crazy. And then especially in the post-COVID environment, you're walking around kind of like, and people are like looking at you funny. And it's
exactly.
No, I swear it's allergies. It's allergies. I promise. But no, like I said, we're really honored to have you, and we're excited to learn more about your backstory and really just get a feel for, what you do in the Knoxville market. So we wanted to first give you an opportunity to do is maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. We like to learn a little bit more about the people that we ultimately talk to.
Yeah, happy to talk about it. I am Knoxville born and raised, was here my first 18 years. And then 3 weeks after high school graduation, I left because, as an 18-year-old, you know everything. And Knoxville had given me everything it ever could in my life. So I decided I was leaving, went down to Auburn University for school and stayed in Auburn in the Atlanta area for the better part of 13 years. Not working in the going to school and then not working in the commercial real estate industry. And then 18 years ago, decided that Knoxville's not a bad place. And it's a great place to raise a family. So I've been back here, raised my kids. My kids were born in Georgia, but they've been here for most of their lives, and been here in the commercial real estate industry for nearly 2 decades now.
That's amazing. Yeah, I know.
Nice,
and it seems that and we get this a lot where people talk about their backstories, and obviously there's a good swath of the people that we interview that kind of had a path into commercial real estate through their family and everything else. But, as we're going to dive into your backstory, like you had a very unique backstory even before you got into the commercial real estate industry. And, it doesn't always need to be like the first career for people right out of college. A lot of times coming with a unique skill set can really add value ultimately to whatever clients you ultimately serve in the commercial real estate business. And obviously you're in brokerage, I'm in brokerage, Jeff's on the commercial construction end, and he's been doing it for almost 2 decades now. So, those unique experiences that you have in the past can impact, your clients in a positive way going forward. So.
No, 100%. And it's we look at our office, 10, 12 brokers right now, and thinking through, I think only one of them is a career, the only job they've ever had is in brokerage. Everyone's had some other job, whether it's in some type of sales position, some type of operations position that, it takes all kinds. Just like, if you want to be an accountant, most likely you majored in accounting. If you want to be in commercial real estate, I mean, we've got political science majors, journalism majors like me, obviously finance majors, history majors. I mean, we've got everything. And it's that background that gets you into this industry. And, for me, going back when I was in college at Auburn, I was doing college baseball on the radio, minor league baseball on the radio, doing the play-by-play and things like that for a number of years. And then after graduating, worked on the TV and radio side at both the smaller affiliate levels outside of Atlanta, and then starting to work up into calling sports for Fox Sports Net, Comcast Sports, ESPN. I mean, It's been great. I worked in TV and radio for the more than a decade. Did some great things, got to cover World Series and Super Bowls and Olympics and, call NFL games, all the SEC sports from the Southeastern Conference, working for SEC TV. Absolutely loved it. If it, my joke is if it wasn't for the hours and the pay, I would still be doing it. But I decided it was time to move on and try something different. And that was to come back to Knoxville and get in the commercial real estate industry.
What was I want to kind of dive down into that, like the decision for that, like what was the draw for the commercial real estate? Why not, residential side? I think that's a big question when you come back to a community like you did. So
sure. Like a lot of people in commercial real estate, it's a family industry. My dad's been a developer or in the industry for the better part of 50 years.
Nice.
So, and his dad did a little bit before him, but he's the one that really started it. He's worked on the development side. He's developed, 1.5 million, 2 million square feet worth of office space here in Knoxville. So it was easy to come back, kind of take the skills that I learned in the TV and radio side and take those over into the marketing side and the brokerage side. I had a nice base to work from a perspective of, having a family industry, having a background to be able to work with people on the front end, and then a nice stable inventory to start with. So it certainly had its benefits. It had a few difficulties because you're always Nick Cazana's son, even when you're 49 years old, which is not a bad thing. But sometimes you want to be better known as Justin Cazana, not just somebody's son. But at the same time, working for a developer gave me great experience in the fact that I think I know more about construction than a lot of people on the brokerage side of things. A little bit more on the debt servicing side when it comes to being able to work with tenants and landlords and knowing where the pain points are. Or understanding what pain points are, depending on who that landlord or that developer is.
Absolutely. No. And you mentioned some of the things that you touched on regarding the family business. We have some friends here that have, family businesses, and there's dynamics at play within a family business that ultimately also, can be an interesting thing to navigate as well, because, you like you said, you work with your father. We've had some friends here that have worked with their father and then their grandparents and the dynamics at play there. So it's definitely a interesting perspective. I'm sure you have.
Yeah, it's a great way to start simply because you do have that, a base to work from. But just like anywhere, it's not a perfect situation. It's not, we're not the Cleavers from Leave It to Beaver where everything's perfect and everyone comes home at 5 o'clock on that afternoon and has dinner together. I mean, it's it's still people, it's still personalities, it's still egos that you have to work with, whether they're family members or not. So it's certainly a balancing act, whether they're family members or not, to deal with.
Absolutely. No,
I actually have a question off that kind of sparked, because I always wanted to ask even our friends, but I didn't want to I didn't know how to say it, but I felt like I know how to say it. Do you feel like you find yourself working even harder because, your dad has done so much in the community and stuff like that? So does that spark you? It's like, okay, I gotta make sure I'm one step ahead of, someone else in the game of commercial real estate.
Yeah, for me, there's a level of wanting to prove yourself, for lack of a better term, that you're not just living off the name. The name is great, but at the same time, I want to be able to be that guy who can go out and say, let me help you do this deal, and here's how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it this way, and I'm not going home at 4 o'clock every day. I'm not going to roll in the office at 9 o'clock. I mean, it's going to be a first one in, last one out type of position. So I think that's important, not only from whether you're on the family side, but whether you're going to lead an office here. And we've got at our Avison Young office here here in Knoxville, we've got 25 people between the brokerage, the admin, and the property management side. So those are all people that rely on you to be here from a perspective of not only from a leadership perspective, but from a perspective of being able to produce and put and make sure that this company is successful.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And it's evidenced by the performance and the success you've had is the commitment you've had to the industry for so many years. And it's a building process. Like anything in life
Yeah.
that's worthwhile, it takes time to push through the adversity and build something of significance. And you've most certainly done that, which is really awesome. So one thing I wanted to kind of touch on was related to, your experiencing on the broadcasting side and how that's
Mhm.
actually maybe helped you in the commercial real estate business. Because like we touched on before we started recording, like the value that you gain from these previous experiences can really translate, even though you may think it has no bearing or no impact on, what you currently do. It oftentimes does have a significant benefit. So I wanted to see if maybe you could touch on some of those experiences that you had in the past and, how you were able to leverage those experiences to now benefit you and what you've been doing for the last several decades.
Yeah. It's funny working in TV, and it's one of the things that's kind of unseen. A lot of what it is before you get on the air is a sales job. You don't see it, but when you watch ESPN, when you see a college basketball game, whether it's on ESPN or Fox Sports or wherever it is, the play-by-play announcers and the color analysts, they're all 1099. They're all contract guys. They're not, or independent contractors, well, just like brokers are. Very few of them, unless they're just the big names, have a true contract that they're going to be paid X. They get paid via event, and so everything depends on your performance. Your performance and your relationships. So you could be the best play-by-play guy in America. If you're Bob Costas or you're Al Michaels, whoever you are, you could be the best guy out there. But if you haven't sold yourself and have that relationship with the executive producer or the coordinated producer that makes the decisions about who's going to do the play-by-play for this guy or for this particular game, you're out of a job. And so developing those relationships, being able to sell yourself on your skills and your experience, being able to do that really set the tone for me to be able to talk to prospects, whether they're tenants, whether they're landlords. And at the same time, I'm completely comfortable standing up in front of a group, whether it's 5 people or whether it's 500 people, and talking for however long you need me to talk. It's that gives me a lot of comfort and be able to take that skill and working and preparing myself for that, because I was lucky enough. I got to work with some of the really some of the greats in TV and radio, and I joke, Maria Taylor, who's now the big analyst for the NBA and now NFL. We did a volleyball match together probably nearly a decade ago. And it was here, University of Tennessee versus Georgia volleyball. I was doing play-by-play. She was doing color. No one knew who Maria Taylor was. She was 18 months out of playing volleyball at Georgia. And all of a sudden she's a superstar, and seeing how you can develop from being 22, 23 years old to now she's 33 years old and hosting the big events in sports. It's great to see and to work with people like that.
Absolutely. And you alluded to it a little bit, in particular on the play-by-play side. I mean, our job is communication. I mean, it's ability to be able to convey a message in an effective manner. And I can only imagine from a play-by-play perspective, because you're having to react instantaneously to what you're seeing and be able to relay that message to a broader audience. And so that skill is invaluable, I imagine. And, one way I was able to refine, what I've been able to do, because I come from an engineering background, I was never really a strong communicator prior to getting into Toastmasters, and I joined Toastmasters for many years, got better as far as the communication is concerned. And that's just through practice and trial and error and trying things out. And you've had that experience for many years before even getting in the brokerage space. So, that I'm sure those skills have translated effectively and has helped you over your career. So,
and it's funny the way you said that is perfect, because what we do when you're working on the play-by-play side, especially in television, I'm listening to the analyst, I'm watching the game. I've got a producer or director in my ear telling me what's coming up next, whether it's a replay, whether it's a commercial, whether it's something I've got to read. So in essence, you're the traffic cop. You're trying to direct the play-by-play or the color analyst, watching the game, trying to get everything put together, which isn't much different from being a broker, because you've got your tenant or your landlord, and you're coordinating you're the traffic cop between the letter of intent and the construction guys, and what does the landlord feel about handling this TI allowance, and massaging the broker on the other side of the deal. mean, you're the interpreter, you're the traffic cop, everywhere in between, and all those skills kind of come together to allow us to do something like this successfully.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of like your clients and like helping, particularly like your tenants that you're trying to get in, what are some things that you get them to help identify space, like for their actual needs? Because I know some, particularly just in my sector, is like they know they want to do a business, but they don't understand like what is all going into that. And particularly on your side is like what space requirements they actually need. And so what can you walk us through, like just a typical client, maybe that something recent or something that you help them with to identify that space?
Sure. We have to look at it from a couple different perspectives, and all of those things have changed in the last 2 years. As the labor, the labor shortage that we're all dealing with, as we talk about the construction costs, all of these different factors that work in there. I mean, we're working with a law firm right now, and a lot of the details of the law firms, and this is traditional 90-year-old law firm, and they're old school, and it's what's most important. We got to be close. We got to be close to the courthouse because we have some litigators. We got to have 400 square foot offices. All these things that you'd expect in that traditional law firm. But then it's guiding them along the path of, all right, but what really is the most important thing? Because I think we look at it instead of just. I tell my clients now, it's not just about real estate. It's people, industry, business, real estate, in that order. Because if you decide you're moving out of downtown and you're going to move to the suburbs, you're going to move 25 minutes away, 25 minutes away. Well, where do these 3 paralegals live, and where do these assistants live? All of a sudden, are you adding 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes to their commute? And they go, well, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I'm not as interested in working here because I don't want to drive that far because gas is $4.50 a gallon and it's not going down anytime soon. So that's the people side that we have to discuss. And when I brought that up the first time, there was a tilt of the head of the attorneys I work with because that wasn't something that they thought about in the past. So the people side is the most important when we're talking about that kind of site selection, because the real estate may be great, but if you just lost 4 people out of a staff of 30 or 20 or whatever it is, that's a lot to replace and not easy to replace in this day and age. And then it's, on the law firm side, do you need the big law library anymore? Do your offices have to be huge? How many people are coming into the office now? I mean, it's that tough balancing act, and every industry is different. We obviously, just like everyone else, have some tenants contracting. We have others that are expanding significantly. So we've seen, we're seeing it across the board as we look to find spaces for tenants on the office side.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And you even mentioned, you alluded to it previously, is the people side of things, because one of the things that, I've faced even early on in my career, and I'm still pretty new to the brokerage space, almost 3 years now, but I've had situations in the past where I've worked with, clients that look at real estate as just a line item on the balance sheet. And they say, okay, well, instead of, me having to spend XYZ amount on the space, let's see if maybe we can move, that 10 or 15 minutes away, and maybe we can save a little bit on this expense, when in reality, there's other considerations that you have to think about before you make that decision, mainly your people. And I remember we interviewed another gentleman named Ward Richmond, who is in the industrial side of things over in Las Vegas, I believe. And he was talking about, when it comes to breaking down light items for your business, people make up between 50 to 70% of your payroll, like your actual revenue. And so those individuals are generally the most important part of your business. So real estate can help you facilitate that through understanding, what the surrounding area is for this particular piece of real estate, and how that helps best support your most important asset, which is your people. So I think
I remember talking to a site selector, and when I say site selector, I'm talking about representing Toyota to build a factory. And if there are 15 line items, real estate's number 9 on the importance level. Number 1, labor force. If you can't hire employees to work there, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the incentives are from the state. Doesn't matter how pretty the land is or the cost of building. Labor force is the driver. And I think a lot of people are seeing that. And I've seen probably starting in 15, 16, 17, around there, while the CFO is always right there in the decision-making process for real estate, so is the head of HR. Because if you lose an employee because you're in bad office space, it's going to cost you $20,000-$30,000 to replace that person, and lost time and productivity and training and everything like that. So spend a little more, spend an extra $1 a square foot or whatever it may be to keep those tenants happy, or to keep those employees happy, and to keep them in a good building, with the amenities you need in a good location. Because while you can't necessarily put that what it costs to hire somebody on a spreadsheet compared to rent, it's a factor in the long run. And that's one of the things we try and talk to our clients about. But this is more than just a numbers decision.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Couldn't agree more on that front. So one of the parts of your business that you alluded to is the property management side. And that's a decision that, a lot of brokerages are struggle with, especially early on, is to figure out whether or not that's something they want to take on. Now, what was the impetus of wanting to go on the property management side of things? And then I guess, how have you been able to build that out over the last, however long you've been doing it?
Yeah, we've been doing it for 10 years. So in this office, and I'll be clear, when I don't think I gave you a complete history. When I came back to Knoxville 18 years ago, worked with my dad for 6 years, and then spun off and opened what was then the Cushman and Wakefield office. During the great migration of companies back, 7-8 years ago, we shifted over to Avison Young, and we've been doing Avison Young since then. We're wholly owned here in Knoxville and have been from the beginning. But it's going back to your question about property management, we decided, property management, and this is the comparison I make, property management pays all the bills, and brokerage is what you take the vacations off of. So, you get a lot of waves in brokerage. You guys deal with it. We deal with it every day. Property management is very stable, from a perspective of, you have those contracts, you're getting that monthly cash flow. It's a good, stable industry to be in if you've hired the right professionals, have the right technology in place. That being said, because it's so stable, it is difficult for business development. I compare property management and business development to changing banks. If I told you you need to change your bank, or worse, change your cell phone number, you'd be like, that's a lot of work. I mean, I don't know, all the work that goes into it. Same thing goes for property management. It almost gets to a point where there either has to be an ownership change in the building, or something bad has happened because of the previous property manager, whether that, any number of things. So property management business development it can be slow. We've had a lot of success with it. Working on a number of different sides, working for special servicers has been great for us on both the property management and the brokerage side. And we've gone as far as we were brought in to manage what was originally a Simon developed mall, 800,000 square feet here in Knoxville. Managed it. It was a very secondary mall. It was not the main mall here in Knoxville. Managed it for the better part of 2 years, and then ended up selling it to Amazon. And Amazon, it was on 80 acres, and Amazon tore it down and built one of their new fulfillment facilities that'll be open here in a couple of months. So they're great benefits to property management. That is, doing that, the Amazon deals, those are few and far between, but it was a nice day. So it's property management is a huge part of what we do here, because it leads to relationships, it leads to more business, and it provides that, really stable income as you go through it.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree more. And especially, like you said, the relationship building piece. If you manage a property for someone for 4 or 5, 6 years, or however long, if they ultimately decide they want to sell it at some point, I mean, it's a natural, progression on your part. And then, who knows if other opportunities don't stem off the benefit of building the relationship with that individual over that period of time. So definitely, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, you actually might get 2 deals out of it, right? If you're one selling, and they might go and want to buy another building. So
no, they're there. And then that mall, we did the leasing too. So it was leasing, property management, and then we did the sale of the property. So it was It was the perfect storm. I wish we could do that more often.
Do that once a month, right?
Yeah, once a month. Why not?
So I'm curious, Justin, more about the Knoxville market and the economic dynamics that are going on. Is there a lot of optimism for the future of Knoxville, or are you guys like what's the trajectory of that? Can you kind of give us the insights to Knoxville market? That'd be great.
Sure. There is a lot of, I have a lot of optimism for Knoxville. Knoxville is always very stable. Not a lot of highs, not a lot of lows. Reason for the stability, you've got a couple of them. University of Tennessee is here, 30,000 students plus employees. TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, which is America's largest utility company, headquartered here. They got 1,500 employees downtown and in their surrounding areas. Oak Ridge National Labs, the easy way to describe it is that's where the atomic bomb was built. It's a $40 billion federal program every year. So there's just a huge amount of industry that goes into that and comes out of that, a lot of innovation that comes out of it. There's been a much more, focused effort to combine those two, Knoxville, UT, and Oak Ridge to create a bigger environment and to keep, the technology that comes out of Oak Ridge. The world's first 3D printed car was printed in Oak Ridge, just 25 minutes from where I'm sitting, and things like the technology that comes out of that. Previously, something great's created and it doesn't stay in Knoxville. It goes where the money goes, which is Silicon Valley or Boston or Chicago or somewhere like that. There's been a concerted effort over the last 5 to 7 years to kind of keep that industry, keep that technology here, and that's helped Knoxville grow. So I've got a lot of optimism. We're seeing growth. Obviously, West Knoxville is is the big suburb where you see a lot of office development. South Knoxville, which is right across the river, has exploded in the last 5 to 7 years. We're hoping to get we're getting a lot of new buildings downtown. Unfortunately, they're all hotels and apartments. I'm pushing for an office building. Downtown Knoxville has not had a new office building since 1992, which is kind of unfathomable considering everything that's been built out west. But that's what downtown Knoxville desperately needs. We're seeing a lot of growth, seeing a lot of people move to town from Chicago, from Los Angeles, from Silicon Valley, that particular area. Our new director of operations moved here from Chicago 2 years ago, and we're seeing real drivers as Knoxville continues to grow. Of course, as you have growth, you end up with growing pains. Roads are a little more crowded. Multifamily occupancy is 98.6%. Houses are on the market for 45 minutes if they ever go on the market. I mean, it's a pretty crazy world. But no, a lot of good things happening here. We do have some big companies here. Pilot Travel Centers was founded here. Bush Beans was founded here and continues to be here. Regal Cinemas, which is 1 or 2 when it comes to the number of theaters in the world, is headquartered here. Smith & Wesson, the gun manufacturer, just announced that it's moving its headquarters to Knoxville from Springfield, Massachusetts. So a lot of drivers and a lot of growth here in Knoxville over the last little bit.
Oh, absolutely. And then also the dynamics at play when it comes to the state as well. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, even here in Kentucky, like with the state economic development, we have trouble competing a lot of times with Tennessee because of the state income tax and other incentives that are offered by the state in order to incentivize, companies to move to the areas. And so, I'm sure that helps as well when it comes to attracting the employers to the area.
Tennessee has been number 1 for the last few years when it comes to best climates for business and for economic development. They'll put a lot of money into projects. We did, a deal that we just finished, biggest deal we've done, office deal in a while. Hitachi Zosen Inova, which is the green energy arm of Hitachi, the global company, expanded their office here, going from 7,000 square feet to 24,000 square feet, adding 100 jobs at, an average average salary of $140,000 a job. That gets people's attention. That gets the state's attention, the city's attention. There was a lot of the economic incentives to go into that. And that's what we did from a brokerage standpoint, connecting those dots, making sure those relationships are developed so that they can get their best benefit and so that they expand to Knoxville and don't go to, some of our competitors. We're seeing, our competitors, Greenville, Tennessee, Greenville, South Carolina, Huntsville, Alabama, Birmingham, Charlotte, sometimes, a lot of competition when it comes to jobs like that.
Oh, certainly, especially at that price, the wage point, like you were mentioning. I mean, that's a very very sought after, type of role that, you want to attract those types of jobs to the area. So that's awesome to hear. So one of the questions that we have typically related to, just the individual's business experience is related to the future goals of the organization. Obviously, you've been in the business for several decades now, and, you guys have experienced significant growth. Like what is the future look like for you guys?
It's we were really lucky the first 7 or 8 years that we were open. Really, didn't lose any brokers. We're able to hire who we bring in who we wanted to bring in, and a lot of that. There's been a lot more turnover, as there has been everywhere the last 3 years. Some brokers have looked at it as, I want a bigger shot. Some others said, I've been really successful here. Why am I paying you a percentage of my commissions? So there's been a lot of transition, and what we're looking at now is really, I want to call it almost a boutique model, where you have a half dozen really strong, focused brokers that aren't just generalists, that aren't like, I'll do an industrial deal today and a retail deal tomorrow and maybe some flex space. But it's, what, Justin, you're an office guy. And then Jim Holloman, he is our industrial guy, and Rick Ross is our multifamily guy. And that's where they focus. Very well supported and extremely driven to complete their deals in that specific silo that they work in. And if I get a call about industrial need, then I'm passing it off to Jim, because that's his deal. I think that's going to be our big focus. At the same time, we do have to bring in, junior brokers, a limited number of them to support us, to support the senior partners. But at the same time, being able to say, when a friend calls, a longtime client says, hey, can you help me out with 2,000 square feet? Typically I'm like, that's really hard to do, but I've got someone there to step in and fill those shoes and do that work to get that done. So it's that balancing act of supporting senior brokers and yet, managing, the new faces, the new names that are not only helping us today, but are going to be those senior brokers, in the next 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely. No. And that's an important piece of the puzzle, especially for the commercial real estate industry. We had the honor of being able to interview the president of SIOR, and he talked about some of the struggles early on, especially for brokers, is that the turnover rate for young brokers is just so high because of the fact that, a lot of times and it depends on the culture, obviously, of the brokerages, but, historically it's been like, here's a phone book, you get out there and, you pretty much eat what you kill versus, trying to groom and grow them over time. And so, I know obviously the SIOR organization, they've started to make much more of a concerted effort to try to see if they can facilitate and foster growth within the business as far as supporting the younger brokers, because that is a very important piece. Because when you first get into something, in particular, a sales role like this, I mean, it's brutal. The first few years are always going to be tough. So, having that support system, like you said, and having someone there that they can go to if they have any questions or need support, obviously that's going to be a great conducive environment for success long term.
And the joke I make to new brokers is, you don't have to worry about the IRS bugging you for a couple of years, because it's just not going to happen. I mean, it's tough to get into these things, and it's so hard when someone says, why wouldn't I go into residential, where in theory you could make a commission in 30 days. I mean, the Hitachi deal that I told you about, first tour was in October of 2020, and we closed that deal 2 weeks ago. So I mean, that's a long time. That's 18 months before you see any results of that from a monetary perspective. So it's incredibly difficult. And, I talked about the old school law firm we work with. Well, guys, just about every true commercial real estate firm, I mean, it focuses nothing on but commercial, is just as old school. You've got to come in. This is the commission split. Just like you said, here's the phone book, knock yourself out. We try and change that a little bit when we bring junior brokers in. We are not just going to feed them to the wolves. It's going to be, all right, Keith, you're working with me now, and we're going to work on this project together. And we're going to split it 80-20. You've got to do a lot of the legwork on these things. I'm going to take you on all the tours. I'm going to make these introductions. We'll walk through these, this letter of intent step by step, introducing you to the landlord, whatever it is, to make this a little bit easier. And you get a little seed money when that deal is done. The next programs that we're looking at now is, okay, do we need to bring these people in? When I say these people, these junior brokers, almost as not just a junior broker who work with a senior broker, but almost in the assistant model. So where they're going to get a salary for a specific amount of time. And it would be a reduced salary, but they would also have a commission split, but the commission split is going to be more favored to the house since they are getting that salary. And it's at some point they're going to say, guys, I'm ready to go to that next level. You take away the salary, and they're on their own. So they're able to support the senior broker, be mentored by that senior broker in some shape, form, or fashion, and also have a little bit of stability. Because if you're leaving, if you leave the University of Tennessee and you've got a degree in finance, do you want to take your chance and have a work 100% commission? It may be very successful, but it maybe not make a dime for the first 6 months or a year. Or do you want to go get a job at a CPA firm, making $55,000-$60,000 out of the block? Because that's what we're seeing now, and it's tough to be. It takes a certain personality to want to be able to take on that risk and bet on the come that it's going to be that you're going to be successful at this and be able to do it quickly.
Yeah, I know for sure. And I mean, that's similar to the structure that I had when I first started in the brokerage business. I had a draw. So essentially what that, for those of you guys who are listening, what that is that they give you a certain base salary, and it was very low. I think it was like 25 or 30,000. But I had to pay back that salary with the commissions that I'd garnered over the course of that first year. And it took me over a year to pay it back, because the first year, it's tough. You get out there, it's a brutal business. And so over time, you just have to continue to work it. And once you get to that point, you can get off the draw and you just are on your way. But that helped me immensely, especially when I first got started, leaving what I was doing before, which was a pretty lucrative career in the development and consulting space, and then jumping into something that was completely commission based. So. Yeah.
And it's tough for young guys. It's funny you mentioned SIOR. I was pre-COVID, I was doing an interview for the magazine, and they asked me what keeps me up at night. And, this was 17, 18, 19. And I said, my fear is that junior brokers today don't know what it's like to work in a bad environment. You sit there and, I put my phone down on my desk and I wait for it to ring, because that's the way the market was. I mean, it was on fire, just like it was in, 05, 06, 07, leading up to the Great Recession. And I wondered, what are these junior brokers going to do when they haven't developed those relationships, when they haven't realized they've got to sit down and make these cold calls and do the things that are tough and hard and nobody likes to do? What are they going to do when it gets quiet? And it got quiet in the spring of 2020. And I think a lot of people didn't know how to handle that. And I think we saw a lot of people just went home and they sat there on their thumbs and took their dogs for 5 walks a day and took their kids to the park to play, because there was nothing they could do. But there were others that were able to turn COVID into a benefit for them. Not obviously the illness, but the environment that was there, and people that took advantage of that had very successful 2021s and into 2022s. And we had a record year here in 21. And it made and we're seeing, similar performance from some people this year.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, one guy that I know has done that, took COVID and turned it into something, is Raphael here. So, yeah, he's definitely shown, like, put the work in. You may not be face to face, but there's still ways around that, and he definitely did. And now he's killing it. So, so like you said, Justin, you got to take what you got and make the best of it, right? So.
Yeah, and it's and Raphael, good for you. I mean, because it was, there were a lot of questions, and we shut down our office for about 6 weeks, and people worked from home. It's funny, I had one kid doing college work from home, one daughter doing high school work from home, and a wife working from home. I literally had no bandwidth to work from home, so I came to the office every day, and it was one of these opportunities where you weren't selling. But what I could do was reach out to all these C-suites that I tried to talk to on a quarterly basis, semi-annual basis, whatever it is. And, I can call Joe at, the president of this company. And before, he would answer the phone and we'd talk for a minute or two, and that'd be the end of it. Well, Joe was in his office a lot, and Joe didn't have anybody to talk to. So that 2-minute conversation was a 10-minute conversation or a 15-minute conversation. And he's asking questions about how you're handling it. What are you hearing around the market? And all of a sudden you've developed a relationship that will carry on in 21, 22, and 23, just because, you took the time to make those phone calls and see how things were going. You didn't sell at the time, but you sell them, it ends up being a long-term deal.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more, really. The relationship building piece, you can't get around the relationship building piece. I mean, it really is the crux of the business. So
it definitely is. Justin, to start kind of rounding out the ending of our show, I just want to say that I really appreciate you coming on and giving us your insights to the market and all your experience and everything. It's been a journey, and it's been a delight, and we appreciate it. So the first question, and we typically ask, because Raphael and both are avid readers, so we're always curious about, like, which book that has been most impactful of your life, and it doesn't have to pertain to commercial real estate. So it could be anything out there that's maybe changed your direction of life, or.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of knew this was coming because I listened to the other podcast. So the one that's my favorite right now is this one. It's What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. I mean, just outstanding. It literally stays on my desk. And I try and read a page or a section or a chapter every day, and I'll just keep rolling through it. 5 minutes. That's all I need. Just kind of as a reminder. I need to do a better job of it. But that's, it's a book that really, really kind of pushed me to take different steps. Another book I love it's a book by a guy named James Kerr. It's called Legacy. It's about the New Zealand All Blacks, the rugby team. And, it's about life, and it's about business, and it's about, he ties this team into business, and it's just outstanding. And if you read it, don't read it before you go to bed, because you get kind of pumped up and get ideas, and your brain starts to spin about all these things you want to do at the office. But it's called Legacy. And I think I heard about it, I think at a Cushman Wakefield symposium. He came and spoke, the author did, and they handed it out, and it's just outstanding. It is a great book. If you A, like sports, and B, like business, I cannot suggest it enough.
that's awesome. No,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just saying, if it happens to do with anything about rugby, man, those guys out there that play rugby, they're a different animal. So
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
Yes, they
I
are.
would love to read that book. So can't wait to read it.
I watched the Wallabies versus the All Blacks. They have their national rugby tournaments and everything else. And I have some family in Australia, and I was there in 2011, and we watched I guess they have the different cups that they play for, and I got the opportunity to watch one of the games between the Australian team and the New Zealand team, and that apparently is a very, very contentious rivalry, and it was impressive, man. Those guys are no joke. I mean, you talk about you talk about toughness. It's just unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah, and I also touched on the Marshall Goldsmith. I mean, he's a phenomenal author, and I've read several of his books, and I could not recommend the book that you just referenced highly enough. It is a phenomenal read. So if you guys get a chance to check it out, I think you guys most certainly should. So, Well, Justin, we greatly appreciate your time as always. Like I said, we know you're very busy, and we're just honored to be able to have you on the podcast and have you have the ability to share your insights. So one thing I wanted to ask you, and this is something we typically ask at the end of the podcast, is we have this thing called the Commercial Real Estate Treasure Chest. It's a repository of resources that we make available to our audience. And, usually we have people contribute helpful PDFs, Excel sheets, really anything that they think would be of value to our audience. And so I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of share. What are you willing to contribute today?
Something tangible. I don't know if I have anything, but I will tell you, thank you notes. That's it. Thank you notes are the key to long-term success, and not emails and not text. Handwritten thank you notes. Don't type them, write them out and send them. It is the amount of the number of deals that I've gotten based on writing a thank you note, sending a thank you gift. A small thank you gift doesn't have to be big. Just a small thank you gift makes a huge deal. Whether it's a 1,500 square foot deal or a 15,000 square foot deal, thank you notes as often as possible, or even just for being able to set up an interview. I can't push that enough. I have a 22-year-old, 19-year-old. I push them to write thank you notes, and they're like, my generation doesn't do that. I said, yeah, but the people you're sending them to do, and they're the decision makers. The 22-year-old is not the decision maker, but the 52-year-old is. And if you write a thank you note, there's something about getting mail that, people like, this means a difference. This makes a difference. I mean, I know that if we interview 3 people for a position and 2 of them write a thank you note and 1 doesn't, the one that didn't write the thank you note probably is not going to make the short list. So it means a lot to people. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I'm sure you get calls from people once they receive your thank you note. Then they just say, oh, well, I appreciate you doing that. I mean, it makes a huge difference. I couldn't agree more with that statement. So what we'll go ahead and do too is we'll go ahead and include a link in because we usually do with the Commercial Real Estate Treasure Chest. We have a page that people can access. And so under your thumbnail, it will reference a link to some thank you notes that people can reference.
All right, great.
So we appreciate that. So.
Yeah. Again, Justin, we really appreciate you coming on. I know people are going to want to reach out to you. So what form of contact would you like them to send you? Other than carrier pigeon, how can they, take care of you and shoot you a note over, or just maybe ask you a question? So.
Yeah. Email and phone call is the best way to do it. Email justin.cazana, Cazana, at avisonyoung.com, AVISONYOUNG.com. Or you can call me. Cell phone's the best way to do it. 865-617-2989. You can text if you want, but it's kind of risky. I'll do my best to get back to you, but I can't make any promises. So email and call is the best way to go.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so for those of you guys who are listening to this in a podcast format, it'll be in the description. We'll go ahead and include that information in the description. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, it'll also be in the description as well. So, well, Justin, as I said before, we greatly appreciate your time. For those of you guys who are listening to this podcast, we greatly appreciate all your support over the months and really over the year that we've had it. So we greatly appreciate that. If you guys are watching this in a YouTube format, we would greatly appreciate if you could like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm, ensures more and more people can hear this message. If you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, whether it's Apple or Spotify or really whatever podcast format you're listening it to, we'd greatly appreciate if you could leave a 5-star review. We've seen a significant uptick in our downloads as a result of you guys doing so. So again, we would just greatly appreciate you stopping by and leaving a 5-star review. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.